a gentleman of recognized position. 8 months after the session of Congress in Karachi, the First World War began. In the meantime, Muhammad Ali Jinnah led a delegation to England to lay before the Secretary of State the views of Congress on the Council of India Bill, due for its first reading in the House of Lords on 25th May. Jinnah had already prepared a resolution regarding the bill, which had been adopted by Congress during the Karachi session. He repeated and explained its terms to members of both houses of parliament at a breakfast party given by Sir William Wedderburn at the Westminster Palace Hotel. Sir William's speech of welcome was consoling and hopeful. He assured his guests that if there had been unrest in India, it had proceeded from misunderstanding, and he claimed that the British desired to establish an atmosphere of sympathy and brotherly kindness between the two great branches of the Aryan race. Jinnah, who once described himself as a man of cold blooded logic, was more factual. He ignored the atmosphere of sympathy, and as he spoke, he counted his points of argument on the fingers of his left hand. His first demand was that the salary of the Secretary of State for India should be placed on the English estimates. In his earlier speech in Karachi, he had said that the existing constitution of the Council of India made the Secretary of State a greater Mughal than any Mughal that ruled in India, that he could come to any conclusion he liked, and that he was responsible to nobody. This would be remedied if his salary were paid by Britain. Then his decisions and actions would be controlled by the British Parliament. Another important demand concerned the composition of the Council of India. In 1907, John Morley had appointed a Hindu and a Muslim to his council, but this had been little more than a gesture. These Indians, nominated by the Secretary of State, enjoyed neither an effective voice in the council nor the support of their countrymen at home. Jinnah wished to change this. He proposed that one third of the council, which should have a minimum of 9 members, should be Indians, elected by those Indians who themselves had been elected by their peoples to serve on the imperial and provincial legislative councils in India. Of the remaining British members of the Council of India, nominated as before by the Secretary of State, Jinnah demanded that half their number, that is one third of the total council, should be men of merit unconnected with Indian administration. The men of merit would thus be able to hold the balance between the two other sections, the elected Indians and the nominated Anglo Indians, and would, he said, bring to bear upon the deliberations of the council that independent judgment which was so characteristic of public men in England. At the time of Jinnah's visit to London, the public men were concerned with the terrible affairs in Ireland. Following the incident at Curragh Camp, where 57 British officers had refused to take part in active operations in Ulster, the fortunes of India were relegated to second place. In Westminster, as news from Ireland arrived each day, still threatening civil war, Jinnah had perhaps chosen an unfortunate hour in which to plead for India. While Ireland was attracting the attention of British leaders to the west, in the east an assassin was busy with a morbid plan that culminated in the revolver shot at Sarajevo in June. Against this background of alarms and danger, the Council of India Bill was read a first time in the House of Lords. Jinnah thought the concessions defined in the bill were most disappointing, and on 3rd June he stated his views in the better part of a column in the Times. The opening sentence was emphatic. He wrote, India is perhaps the only member of the British Empire without any real representation, and the only civilized country in the world that has no system of representative government. Then he repeated his arguments and his objections to the tame concessions. The bill was rejected, or rather postponed, after its second reading, not because the Lords considered the proposed reforms too revolutionary, but because several of them believed that the bill was inopportune and unsuited to the needs of the Indian people. Lord Emphill said, a bad mistake has been made, and it would be far better for all concerned to make a fresh start in a better way and at a better and more convenient time. So Muhammad Ali Jinnah returned to India empty handed, and the reforms he advocated had to wait. While the war in Europe quickly assumed its horrible shape, his compensations for failure were personal. He had been listened to by officials in Westminster for the first time. He had been described by Sir William Wedderburn as one of the gentlemen of recognized position in the public life of India, and for history's sake, his opinions had been recorded at good length in the columns of the Times.